Hello NFL fans and welcome back to the Wall of NFL channel. Today is going to be my final predictions video on the NFC West. I'm going to be predicting which of the Cardinals, Rams, 49ers and Seahawks are going to be making the playoffs in the upcoming 2021 season. Last season, the Cardinals did a lot better than in the 2019 season. They went from finishing 5-10-1 in 2019 to finishing 8-8 in 2020, which is a much better progression, and they finally got a winning record under their belt. And Kyler Murray looked pretty comfortable as well, as he had new weapon DeAndre Hopkins. So pretty good season for the Cardinals overall, and I think they'll be looking to do a little bit better than that this season as well. They were right up in the playoff conversations all the way until the last game of the season, so hopefully if they do better this season, they may be able to make the playoffs this year as well. In the 49ers camp, I'm afraid they had way too many injuries to be competitive in this division. This division's a really tough one to win and even be competitive in, and the fact that they had quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo missing for the whole season, Nick Bosa missing for the whole season, and Richard Sherman out as well due to injury, it made for a really tough season, and it didn't help as well George Kittle going in and out of the lineup for their backup quarterback. The Seahawks, they did win the division with a 12-4 record, but unfortunately they didn't finish the season very well. They had a fantastic first half of the year with Russell Wilson firing on all cylinders and passing the ball all over the place on offense, and he was in the conversation to win that MVP up until about week 9, week 10, when they started to go a lot more run heavy and defense heavy, and Pete Carroll did not let Russell Wilson get back to his normal self in that second half of the season. So they did whimper out in the playoffs when they got there to the Rams, they had a very hot and cold season themselves. Jared Goff was the main consistency problem in the Rams team. And despite having a fantastic head coach, a fantastic defense, and just a really tough team to play against all round, Jared Goff really was the issue, and his hot and cold nature of one game being really good, one game being really bad, it was really tricky for them. They did make the playoffs in the end, like I said, and beat the Seahawks, but they did whimper out against the Packers in the divisional round of the playoffs. The Cardinals have really been improving over the last couple of seasons as Kyler Murray has himself improved, and no matter how small he is, he has been really good at throwing the ball and rushing. And it just goes to show that no matter how big you are, you can still succeed in the NFL. They have managed to pair their star defensive end Chandler Jones with J.J. Watt from the Texans, who in previous years has won 3 Defensive Player of the Year awards out of 4 in a row. And whilst he is entering his swan song of his career, he is a fantastic leader and should definitely make a difference on that defensive line. They've also managed to sign Malcolm Butler, AJ Green, Rodney Hudson and James Conner as well. So they should be improving with those extra veterans who should really help guide that young team. It is strange though how they've been signing some washed up players this season. And I don't mean that those players are washed up, but I do think there's a chance that they won't help much beyond the first few games of the season, as some of them have had injury issues, especially AJ Green. And whilst they are, of course, really good players, I do think this is their swan song kind of final chapter of their career. And we'll have to wait and see how well they'll impact the team. Cliff Kingsbury has been a decent head coach so far, but there are still some questions around him, and we'll see how he does. I think if he isn't that great, Kyler Murray could still shroud that not-so-greatness, and he still could have his job for another couple of seasons, but I don't know. The Cardinals, I think, could upgrade at head coach, but again, Cliff Kingsbury isn't the worst, so we'll have to wait and see on that one. I think the Cardinals are going to improve on last season, but I think they'll go around 9-8, and they will still have a positive record. But it just goes to show how excellent this division is, that I'm predicting the Cardinals to be the worst team in the division, yet they will still have a chance at making the playoffs come the playoffs in December and January next year. The 49ers 2021 season is going to hinder on whether that team is able to stay healthy. They don't have the roster depth that the Buccaneers and the Rams do, so it really will be a big deal if Jimmy Garoppolo and Nick Bosa are able to stay healthy this season. They missed out on those key players last year, which meant that they only finished the year 6-10, and it meant that they got the 12th pick in the draft. On the one hand, though, that was quite a good position for them to be in, as they were able to trade up in the draft to the number 3 overall pick and draft their new franchise quarterback, Trey Lance. Trey Lance was fantastic in college, throwing no interceptions, which is quite staggering in my opinion. I think that Trey Lance really has the capabilities to succeed in the NFL, especially with Kyle Shanahan at head coach, who is a fantastic head coach. And as shown with Nick Mullins over the years, he can succeed with anyone at quarterback. It is going to be really interesting though this season, as I do think that if everyone's able to stay healthy on the 49ers, that Kyle Shanahan at head coach will be able to take that team back to potentially getting to the Super Bowl. I think there are 3 teams in the NFC that can get that Super Bowl NFC spot, and I think that's going to be the Rams, the Buccaneers, and of course the 49ers. It's going to be really interesting this season though, and again, it will hinder on those injuries. The Seahawks had a pretty tricky time this offseason, with Russell Wilson clearly getting sick of the amount of times he was getting hit by opposing defenses. He really had a few shots at the front office and his offensive line for not really protecting him, and that did lead the Chicago Bears to make a pretty substantial offer for trading for Russell Wilson. That was swiftly declined by the Seahawks though, and in fact the Seahawks listened to Russell Wilson and they ended up trading for Jackson from the Raiders to help shore up that offensive line interior, and also their rookie Lewis, who was a guard last year, will have another season under his belt, so should be able to improve that offensive line coming this next season. I do think though that the Seahawks may take a step back overall though, finishing potentially around 11-6, which definitely will get them into the playoffs, but it will be pretty tricky for them to navigate around this really hard division. I think though if the offense is able to incorporate running and throwing and the defense stays as solid as it normally is, the offense will be a lot better, as it really went through a pass-heavy attack in the first half of last season and a run-heavy attack in the second half of last season. So if they are able to combine that all season, they could be really dangerous, especially with DK Metcalf at wide receiver and also Lockett on the other side at wide receiver as well. Let's see though, the Seahawks really are one of those up and down teams, and though they always make the playoffs every year, it is kind of tricky as to which Seahawks you're going to get. Are you going to get the ground and pound Seahawks one day, or are you going to get the pass-happy Russell Wilson focused offense that you can get as well some weeks? We'll have to wait and see. I think if there is one team that can rival the Buccaneers in terms of talent, it is definitely the Los Angeles Rams. They have a fantastic defense, including Aaron Donald, who's been the best defensive player in the league the last 5 years, and Jalen Ramsey, a complete shutdown corner who can take out any best receiver on any team on any given Sunday, really. And the fact that they have Sean McVay as well at head coach, who is guiding that offense to success every single season. They have great weapons as well with Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. They were only missing one thing, and that was a consistently top-tier quarterback. Last season, Jared Goff was very hot and cold, and no one was ever sure whether they were going to get a good Jared Goff or a bad Jared Goff, and trading Matthew Stafford for Jared Goff, 2 first-round picks and a third-round pick is really going to change that team. Matthew Stafford has a really strong arm, and he has played at a much higher level than Goff for the last decade at the Detroit Lions. So I think that picking up Matthew Stafford is going to be the final piece of the puzzle that is going to take the Rams to be a Super Bowl challenging Super Bowl challenging team. And really, I think that it's going to be between the Rams and the Buccaneers, but potentially the 49ers in that championship game as to which team is going to face either the Chiefs or the Bills in the AFC. As I said, the Rams are going to be a really tough team to beat this season, but they are, again, in a really tough division. So I think it'll be between the Rams and the 49ers, who are both going to finish around 12-5, as to which of them is going to take the divisional crown. So thank you guys so much for watching my final prediction video of the series. Please leave in the comments below which team you think is going to finish top of the division, as it could be any of these teams really. They're all so stacked. Please do check out the social media pages in the description and our website wallofnfl.com, and see you in the next video.